What if the 50p coin you've been ignoring for years has a detail that could make it far more interesting to a collector? These familiar British coins have spent decades moving through everyday hands, but some dates and characteristics are worth a second look. Welcome back to Change Your Life. Today's countdown features 3 United Kingdom 50p coins. 2002, no mint mark. 1998, no mint mark. 1997, no mint mark. Struck at the Royal Mint, Lancashire, these Cupro-nickel 50p coins feature the classic seated Britannia reverse design. Many examples have become dirty, scratched, worn, and heavily circulated, making them look completely ordinary. But experienced collectors know that the real story can be hidden in the details. Unusual varieties, minting errors, striking characteristics, and other small differences can make certain examples worth a closer examination. So don't spend that old 50p just yet. Check the date, inspect both sides, and stay with us until the end, because the final coin may have the most surprising detail in today's countdown. Now, let's uncover coin number 1. There is something strange about the 2002 British 50p. Not because every example is rare. Not because the date alone guarantees a huge value. But because this little 7-sided coin belongs to a period when the familiar image of Britannia was still appearing on Britain's everyday 50p, and some of the smallest details can tell you much more than the date ever will. Take your worn 2002 example. It may be scratched. It may be darkened from years of circulation. The edges may have picked up countless contact marks. At first glance, it looks like ordinary pocket change. Now turn it over. There she is. Britannia. Seated beside the lion. Shield at her side. Trident in her hand. Olive branch in the other. And underneath, 50. With 50p around the design. This Britannia reverse was created by Christopher Ironside and was used on the 50p from 1982 through 2008. But the real investigation begins on the other side. Look at Queen Elizabeth II. The 2002 coin carries the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait, which was used on UK 50p coins from 1998 onward. That means your 2002 coin belongs to a different portrait era from the 1997 50p in this same video. And that gives us an immediate comparison. 1997, Raphael Makhlouf portrait. 1998 onward, Ian Rank-Broadley portrait. 2 consecutive years. 2 different portraits. 1 denomination. And a major change in Britain's circulating coinage happening right between them. Now let's talk about the number that can easily be misunderstood. Approximately 23,907,500 Britannia 50p coins dated 2002 were produced for circulation. That's much lower than the enormous 1997 mintage. But lower mintage does not automatically mean rare. That's an important collector rule. A coin's value isn't determined by one number alone. You have to consider mintage, condition, demand, varieties, errors, and whether the specific coin is genuinely unusual. And because your 2002 example is dirty, worn, and heavily circulated, condition is especially important. Now bring the coin under magnification. Don't start with the date. Start with Britannia. Look at the trident. Look at the shield. Look at the lion. Look at the lettering. Then inspect the rim and the small design details. You're looking for something that can be verified, not something that merely looks strange. A scratch isn't automatically an error. A dent isn't automatically an error. A flattened design isn't automatically a variety. And discoloration isn't automatically a minting problem. Years inside pockets, purses, and coin machines can leave some very dramatic marks. So if you discover something unusual, don't clean it. Don't polish the cupro-nickel. Don't use chemicals. Don't scrape the surface. Don't try to make the coin look new. Preserve the evidence exactly as you found it. The standard smaller 50p specification is 27.3 millimeters in diameter, 8 grams in weight and cupronickel, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. That gives you another simple way to investigate your coin. Measure it. Weigh it. Compare it with a confirmed example. If something appears significantly different, document it before jumping to conclusions. And there's another detail worth checking. The Ian Rank-Broadley portrait contains small design details that become much easier to study under magnification. Look around the lettering. Study the portrait's high points. Check the initials. Then compare your 2002 coin against another normal 50p from the same period. That's how you begin separating normal circulation wear from something genuinely unusual. And this matters because your coin's dirty appearance can be misleading. A heavily circulated 50p can look dramatically different from a freshly struck example. The surface can become dull. The raised details can flatten. The rim can become battered. But none of that automatically creates a premium. The goal isn't to make the coin sound valuable. The goal is to discover whether your particular coin has a legitimate collector feature. And that's what makes the 2002 50p worth investigating. It's not about blindly believing every shocking price claim online. It's about knowing where to look. Because sometimes the most important clue on an old coin isn't sitting in the middle of the design. It's hiding in a tiny detail that you would completely miss, unless you finally decided to look twice. The 2002 Britannia 50p becomes much easier to understand once you separate vintage, condition, and genuine collector interest. The circulation mintage was 23,907,500, which is considerably lower than the huge production of some other Britannia 50p dates. But that still doesn't make an ordinary worn example automatically rare. Current collector references place a normal circulated 2002 example around face value, while substantially better preserved examples can command a premium. So if your coin has been heavily circulated, don't judge it by the highest price you might see attached to a pristine example online. Instead, examine what you actually have. Start with the details around Britannia. Look at the trident, then the shield, then the lion beside her. Move outward toward the lettering and the seven-sided rim. You're looking for something consistent with the way the coin was struck, not random damage caused decades later. A scratch across Britannia's body? Usually circulation damage. A flattened edge? Probably wear. A small dent? Again, likely postmint damage. But if a feature appears as part of the original design and can be consistently matched against documented examples, that's when further investigation makes sense. Turn the coin over. The obverse carries the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. The Royal Mint's design information places this portrait on the 50p from 1998 onward. Look closely beneath the portrait for the designer's initials. On a heavily worn coin, tiny initials and fine portrait details can become difficult to distinguish. That's normal. Don't mistake missing detail caused by decades of friction for an error. This is why comparing your coin with another genuine 2002 50p can be incredibly useful. Your example has been described as dirty, worn, heavily circulated. That matters. The same date can have dramatically different collector appeal depending on whether it's a heavily used circulation coin or a sharply preserved example. One current collector guide lists the 2002 Britannia 50p at around 50 pence in circulation condition and about £6 in brilliant uncirculated condition. These are guide figures, not guaranteed sale prices. The 1998 British 50p has a detail that can completely change what you think you're holding. And strangely enough, it isn't hidden in some complicated mint mark. It's the design on the reverse. Take your 1998 50p and turn it over. If yours is the regular Britannia issue, You'll see Britannia seated beside a lion, holding her trident and olive branch, with a shield beside her. The design was created by Christopher Ironside and continued on the smaller 50p through 2008. But now flip the coin back. Look at Queen Elizabeth II. The 1998 50p marks an important transition because it carries the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait, the fourth definitive portrait used on British coinage from 1998. The previous 50p portrait, by Raphael Maklauf, ended in 1997. So this tiny coin sits right at the beginning of a new portrait era. And there's another reason 1998 deserves attention. The regular Britannia 50p had a circulation mintage of approximately 64,306,500. That's considerably lower than some huge mintage Britannia dates. But here's where we need to be careful. Lower mintage does not automatically mean rare. And because you've described your coin as dirty, worn and heavily circulated, its condition needs to be considered before anyone starts talking about significant collector premiums. Now here's the part that many people overlook. Look at the Britannia design. Study the trident. Check the shield. Examine the lion. Look around the lettering. Then inspect the seven-sided edge. You're looking for a feature that can actually be identified, not simply something that looks unusual because the coin has been through decades of circulation. A scratch across Britannia? Probably damage. A flattened detail? Could simply be wear. A dent around the edge? Likely circulation damage. A strange color? Not automatically an error. The important question is, was the feature created when the coin was struck, or did it happen afterward? That's the question that separates genuine mint varieties and errors from ordinary pocket change damage. The 1998 coin uses the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. His portrait was introduced on UK coinage in 1998 and remained in use until 2015. Under the portrait you'll find the tiny IRB initials. On a sharply preserved example, they're easy to see. On your heavily circulated coin, they may be worn. That's completely different from an actual missing design element. So don't mistake wear for a minting error. The standard smaller 50p is 27.3 mm diameter, 8.0 g weight, cupro nickel, 75% copper/25% nickel, 7-sided, constant breadth shape. Those specifications give you a useful baseline. If your coin weighs slightly differently, don't immediately assume something extraordinary happened. Old coins can accumulate dirt. Scales can vary. And damage can affect measurements. Use the specifications as a comparison tool, not as instant proof of rarity. There's a very interesting trap with the year 1998. The Royal Mint produced 3 different 50p designs dated 1998. Britannia, European Union/EEC anniversary, NHS 50th anniversary. So when someone simply says, "I have a 1998 50p," that isn't enough information. You need to turn the coin over. The reverse design tells you which 1998 50p you're actually looking at. And that's exactly why collectors don't value coins based on the date alone. A 1998 Britannia is one thing. A 1998 NHS commemorative is another. A 1998 EU/EEC commemorative is another. Same year. Same denomination. Completely different reverse. That's a much more interesting story than simply saying an old coin is valuable because of its age. And there's another reason to preserve your coin carefully. If the surface is dark, leave it. If Britannia looks worn, leave it. If there are old marks, don't polish them away. Don't use vinegar. Don't use metal cleaner. Don't scrape the lettering. Don't try to make the cupro nickel shine. Your coin's present condition is part of its evidence. Instead, photograph both sides. Take a close-up of the portrait. Photograph the IRB initials. Capture the Britannia reverse. Then weigh the coin and compare the measurements with the standard specifications. And most importantly, compare it with another genuine 1998 Britannia 50p. Because the real mystery isn't, is every 1998 50p worth a fortune? It isn't. The real question is, does this particular 1998 coin have something that separates it from the normal issue? And that's where the investigation gets interesting. Because sometimes a coin can spend years looking completely ordinary, until someone finally turns it over and notices the one detail everyone else missed. Now we get to the part that matters most to collectors. What actually separates an ordinary 1998 50p from a coin worth investigating further? The answer isn't simply the date. It's the combination of design, condition, mintage, variety, and authenticity. The regular 1998 Britannia 50p had a circulation mintage of approximately 64,306,500. That's much lower than the 1997 issue, but it's still a substantial production run. So if your 1998 coin is dirty, heavily circulated, and showing plenty of scratches, don't assume the lower mintage automatically makes it rare. Instead, start with the reverse. Look carefully at Britannia's trident, shield, lion, and the surrounding lettering. Then examine the edge of the coin. The standard 50p has a distinctive 7-sided constant breadth shape, which is one of the easiest ways to recognize the denomination. The standard specification is approximately 27.3 millimeters and 8 grams, with a cupro-nickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. If your coin is slightly dirty, weighing it after gently removing loose surface dirt may give you a more useful comparison, but don't scrub or polish it. Here's one of the most historically interesting clues. Your 1998 50p belongs to the beginning of the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait era. The Royal Mint identifies Rank-Broadley's portrait as the fourth definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II and notes that it was introduced in 1998. That means your 1998 coin is sitting right at a major transition point. Compare it with a 1997 50p. You'll immediately notice the portrait difference. 1997 uses the earlier Raphael Maklauf portrait. 1998 uses Ian Rank-Broadley. Two neighboring dates, two different portraits, and a fascinating snapshot of British coinage history. Remember what we discussed in Part 1. There isn't just one 1998 50p design. The Royal Mint records 3 1998 designs. There is something genuinely fascinating about the 1997 British 50p. Not because every 1997 coin is rare. In fact, the opposite is true. This was the year Britain changed the size of the 50p, and the new smaller version entered everyday circulation on September 1, 1997. The older, larger 50p was later withdrawn and demonetized in 1998. So when you find a worn 1997 50p, you're not simply looking at an old coin. You're looking at a coin from a major transition in British currency. And there's an even more interesting detail. Your 1997 50p carries the Raphael Maklauf portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. That makes it special from a design history perspective, because 1997 was the final year of the Maklauf portrait, before the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait appeared in 1998. Now turn the coin over. There is the familiar figure of Britannia, seated beside a lion. She holds a trident. An olive branch rests in her other hand. Her shield stands beside her. And around the design, 50 pence, with the number 50. The reverse was designed by Christopher Ironside, whose Britannia design remained the standard 50p reverse until 2008. But now comes the first thing you should check. This is extremely important. The 1997 date appeared on both large and small 50p versions, but the large version was produced for collectors rather than ordinary circulation. The smaller version was the one released into circulation in huge numbers. The two sizes are dramatically different. The old large 50p, 30 mm diameter, 13.5 grams. The new small 50p, 27.3 mm diameter, 8 grams. So if you're holding a 1997 50p, don't immediately search for its value. Measure it first. That tiny measurement can tell you which version you're dealing with. And here's where things get even more interesting. The small 1997 Britannia 50p had a circulation mintage of approximately 456,364,100. That's enormous. It's actually described by collector references as the most commonly produced 50p issue. So your heavily circulated small 1997 coin isn't automatically rare. But there is a historical reason collectors still pay attention to it. It is the first smaller 50p issued for circulation. And it is the only smaller 50p carrying the Raphael Maklauf portrait. That combination makes it an important date in the story of the British 50p. Now take a closer look at the obverse. You'll see Queen Elizabeth II facing right. This is the Raphael Maklauf portrait, used on British circulating coinage from 1985 through 1997. Under magnification, inspect the smallest portrait details. Don't confuse worn areas with missing design. Your coin has been heavily circulated. That means the highest points of the portrait can naturally become flatter and less defined. That's normal wear. It isn't automatically an error. The 1997 small 50p is cupro-nickel, with a composition of approximately 75% copper and 25% nickel. The standard small coin weighs 8 grams and measures 27.3 millimeters. So if your coin is dirty or darkened, don't assume the color means something unusual happened at the mint. Years of circulation can dramatically change how a coin looks. Instead, check the fundamentals: date, size, weight, portrait, reverse design, condition. Then investigate anything genuinely unusual. And don't forget the edge. The famous seven-sided shape was deliberately retained because it made the denomination easy to distinguish by touch and sight. That's one reason the 50p became such an instantly recognizable British coin. You may have seen internet listings claiming that a 1997 50p is worth thousands of pounds. Be extremely careful. There has been significant online hype around this date, including listings asking for enormous amounts. Specialist coin dealers have pointed out that ordinary circulated 1997 Britannia 50ps are not automatically £10,000 coins. The actual value depends on the specific version, condition, rarity, and any genuine collectible characteristics. So if yours is dirty, worn, heavily circulated, and the normal small circulation type, keep your expectations realistic. But still examine it. Because the reason to inspect this coin isn't simply the possibility of a huge price. It's the possibility of discovering exactly which 1997 50p you're holding. And that starts with one simple question. Is it the old size or the new size? If it's dark, leave it. If Britannia is worn, leave it. If there are circulation marks, leave them. Don't polish the cupro-nickel. Don't use chemicals. Don't scrape the surface. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Because once you start altering the surface, you can make proper examination more difficult. And sometimes, the most important clue isn't a dramatic error. It's something as simple as 27.3 millimeters instead of 30. A difference you can measure in seconds. A difference that tells you this little 1997 coin belongs to a completely different chapter of Britain's currency history. Now we reach the part that causes the most confusion with the 1997 British 50p. Not every 1997 50p is the same coin. That single fact can completely change how you research one. The 1997 date is famous because it sits at the transition from the old large 50p to the smaller 50p that Britain still recognizes today. The Royal Mint says the smaller 50p entered circulation on September 1, 1997, while the larger version was subsequently withdrawn and demonetized in 1998. So let's slow this down and examine the evidence. If you have a 1997 50p in your hand, measure it. The small circulation 50p measures approximately 27.3 millimeters and weighs 8 grams. The older large 50p measures approximately 30 millimeters and weighs 13.5 grams. That's a huge difference. And here's where collectors sometimes get caught out. The large 1997 Britannia 50p was produced as a collector version, while the small version was the one released into normal circulation. So if your coin is the smaller, heavily circulated type, don't assume the dramatic prices you see online apply to it. There's another fascinating piece of history. The 1997 small 50p carries the Raphael Maklauf portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. That makes it the last circulating 50p with this portrait. In 1998, the Ian Rank-Broadley portrait appeared. So placing a 1997 and 1998 50p side by side gives you a remarkable before and after comparison. Same denomination, different royal portrait, different chapter in British coin history. And that's something collectors can appreciate even